We are delighted to be joined by Davia Temin. Davia is an expert marketing, media, and reputation strategist, crisis manager, and leadership and communications coach. In 1997, she founded Temin & Company, whose purpose is to create, enhance, and save reputations. As their president and CEO, she leads their practice focused on international crisis, reputation, and risk management, with a specialty in cybersecurity crisis management. So Davia is a rock star. We're delighted to have her, and we're also pleased to say she's one of the business leader signatories on our open letter. So with that, let me hand it off to Davia to talk about global crisis and how to deal with it. Davia, take it away.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you so much. It's good to be with you here today, although I'm sorry that our topic is in such great need and demand. Crisis management, right? So crisis is today everywhere. It's ubiquitous, it's profound, and it is destructive. As 2017 swirls into 2018, crisis is not only the new normal, it has become normalized to such an extent that we forget there was a time when insanity did not rule Washington, D.C., the country, and the globe. From crazy, brutal mass shootings on a weekly basis when we do nothing to stop them, to homegrown terrorism, to other terrorism, where our daily objects, such as cars, are weaponized for maximum damage, to a Congress ready to trade in the welfare of millions of our citizens just so they can say, gotcha. The world is topsy-turvy. In fact, as you look at the business landscape, the college and university landscape, global politics, as well as our legislative process, red-hot crisis rules. And leaders are beginning to feel crisis management is just another leadership trait. You know, I'm sure Harvard Business School and every other business school in the world has segments that they try to give on crisis management. When I started in this profession, X number of years ago, it wasn't a profession at all. 25 years ago, when I ran marketing for a bunch of companies, including GE Capital, crisis management was basically unheard of. Instead, you got a reputation as a fixer, or somebody on an international scale who could make tough issues go away by resolving the underlying issues. 20 years ago, when I started my own firm, nobody knew what crisis management meant. And those maybe in trouble did, but everyone else felt that there was no need for it. But today, as it's become normalized, there's a hit TV show, Scandal. And now today, if I go to a cocktail party, all I have to do is say I'm a real live Olivia Pope. There's even a wine called Crisis Management. Talk about that for Brandon. And its logo is a frayed rope held on by one little string. It's pretty good too. We give it as Christmas gifts. But I'm here to tell you that crisis is not normal. And it's never normal. In a crisis, normal rules of leadership do not apply. The best answers are not necessarily intuitive, and those leaders who believe that they can just apply their own intuition that has been forged in normal times, think of Tony Hayward at BP, can be brought down. They can bring themselves down, and they can do it really fast. Rather today, effective crisis management must be based on experience, expertise, and constant reevaluation as social media fuels everything. And as it changes from one nanosecond to the next nanosecond and from 1 hour to the next. So what was right? What was the right move 45 minutes ago or 2 days ago might not work today, and worse, it might deepen your trouble tomorrow. So it is just a continually changing thing. I liken it to, if you ever saw Star Trek, you know, they had 3-dimensional chess. Well, I think of it as being 10-dimensional chess these days. So experience with an emerging crises every moment of every day is a must, I believe, to be able to negotiate these things right with non-intuitive solutions. And by the way, I just want to say that I call it crisis management, never crisis communications, never communications, because communications makes it feel like you're putting lipstick on a pig, right? It's just glossing it over with words. And today's crisis actually is too important for that. I believe that the best crisis management is strategic. It goes to the heart of the problematic issue, and it fixes it, is committed to fixing it at its root cause, not with window dressing, but with real on-point solutions and change. And that, I think, speaks to our government, speaks to everything. And it also means, though, that a great crisis manager has to have some kind of power within the system, not just be an add-on. So actually, over the last 20 years, I've put together 145 and counting rules of crisis management, taken from every kind of crisis. But you don't have to worry, because I'm not going to give you all 145. That's going to be saved for the book. But I am going to talk a little bit about the top lessons that I think can help you in everyday, both in your everyday business and personal crises, in our country's crisis, and on the global level. I think these things are rather universal. Okay, so crisis rule number 1, deny denial. Anytime something goes wrong, it is a human psychological need and trait to minimize how bad that is. You see it in individuals, you see it in corporations, you see it in not-for-profits, you see it in colleges and universities, you see it on governing boards, and you see it in C-suites. And I believe you see it in every Oval Office. First thing you think of is this cannot be happening. And if it is happening, it's not really happening to me. And if it really is happening to me, it's not that bad. And if it's that bad, nobody will notice. And if somebody will notice, well, it'll be over really quickly. And if it's not over quickly, well, those other guys, it happened to them and they'll survive. And on and on and on. It's just a cascade of a denial. And of course, the longer you stay in that place of denial, the longer it takes you to put in fixes that would actually help it stop. So if you think of it, the thing is escalating like this. The minute you put in a fix, it levels out. But until you do put in a fix, it escalates up and up and up. And then even when you try to fix it, it's far, far worse than ever. So time counts, and being able to see clearly, to be able to admit what's clearly, that really matters. Okay, normal rules are off. Number 2, you need to be counterintuitive sometimes. And we all know that our world is no longer rational, as if it ever was. I mean, that's why somebody won the Nobel Prize, right? Because the rational man theory in economics has been proven now not only to be about rational men, but I'm not sure there are any, but I don't think there are any rational women. The bets are off. Okay. So rational responses in crisis do not usually win. Perception is beating truth everywhere. You know that. 3, inform your gut. You do have to inform your gut, because in the moment when you have to react, the more you know, facts, figures, experiences, anecdotes, not from your swim lane, if you will, but from a 360 degree of cognition of what is going on in the world and what lessons you have learned from your own experiences and others, the better you are able to think in that moment. And that's just simply critical. 4, you certainly want to retain agency. In crisis, everyone tries to steal your power and control. They try to speak for you. I mean, if a federal agency comes to your door, if it's the SEC or the FDA or no matter what, they're going to be the ones holding the press conference. If there's a criminal action, you're going to do a perp walk and the police are going to hold that. If you're in a car accident, all of a sudden you're on a gurney with your head in a neck thing brace, and everybody else is talking for you. They're not listening to you anymore. You're turning into meat, really. So what it has been proven is that people get stronger and people make better decisions in crisis if they retain their own agency and their own power for as much as you can. And you have to fight to do that, but it is worth the fight. 5, don't get all deer in the headlightsy. You do have to just not go into like, but you have to react immediately with vigor, in the exact right way, with the exact right words, from the exact right point of view. So for example, right, the classic, if you're old enough, the classic case of crisis management in business was Tylenol. We've all heard of Tylenol in business. They were the best. Well, that was 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, they waited 3 days to take the bottles of arsenic-laced, or some arsenic-laced Tylenol capsules off of the market. 3 days. Do you know what would have happened? What would happen to you if you waited 3 days now? There'd be no more company. There'd be no more CEO. There'd be no board. There probably would be no more shelves. So it really has changed very much. Today, what I like to say is you have no more than 15 minutes to respond to a crisis. Now, you don't have to have all the answers. You can't have all the answers, but you better get up and in whatever forum is appropriate, whether it's a press conference or a TV show or on air or on one of these podcasts or some kind of a video cast, you've got to get up there and become the trusted voice to lead people through the crisis. That means you say, if you don't know, you say you don't know. But you do say that you're committed with every ounce of your being to find out, and that you will stay in contact with people as you do find out, and you will feed them more information. And then you have to do it. And then you have to do it right. Because if you don't do that, other people will hack it and they'll speak for you. Your competitors, who you know who, but they'll do it, I promise you. And you better know how to play up the drama. Because we can bemoan today's anti-fact era. But the truth is that the only way that the truth can compete with perception these days is by adding some drama, some emotion, and fervor along with the rationality, whether it's with business or political agendas. I believe you apply your business skills, and that means strategy to all of this, and probably military strategy more than anything else. One of the best experiences I ever had was a course that the Army War College does, full Army War College in Hershey for CEOs. And learning about that or understanding Lao Tzu, these are things that actually really help you when you're in the middle of something where you've got to put everything to bear on to make the right outcome be right. So you want to fight indefatigably. You can't get tired. You can't get dispirited in the middle of a battle. You have to be able to find superhuman energy to fight for what you believe is right. And you have to be feisty to do it. So, for example, if you find this tax bill reprehensible, you must not stop calling and rallying and doing until it is defeated, no matter what it takes. Similarly, for if you think it's the right tax bill, but then just don't talk to me about it. And in fact, social media is your friend. You want to learn to understand it and use it. Obama knew how, and so does Trump. And so must you. Don't run toward it every minute. Don't run away from it. If you were to see where I am now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 31-inch screens on 2 levels. And it's like a little cockpit of information. And I'll tell you, you need that to be able to make the right decisions and know what you're doing, I believe. Most importantly, it is important to become the trusted voice in a crisis, the voice of integrity, the voice of truth, and if needed, the voice of real, true, authentic apology. You can, no matter what your lawyers say, you can never let your fears of liability trump your humanity. You will be remembered at the end of the day by your compassion and your humanity. So in extremis, many folks and crisis managers tend to do only what's expedient, and they will do anything to make the pain stop. Don't fall into that trap. You can raise the level of discourse and of action. In fact, I would submit that it is your moral responsibility to do so. So finally, yeah?
Oh, go ahead. You said you have one more. Okay, great.
Okay. My last thing, resilience, and to embody resilience, which is coming out of it, because I think you can come back finer and stronger and better through these kinds of crises. There are 3 things about resilience that Diane Coutu wrote about in the Harvard Business Review a while back. The first is that you don't go into denial. You have a staunch acceptance of reality. The second is that you have something that fuels you, whether it's a credo, whether it's your religion, something that is bigger than you that you heed to. And then third, an uncanny ability to improvise, because you need that improvisation. So think of Swiss Family Robinson or Castaway, where he makes a life with a basketball and a lot of videotape. So come out stronger, finer, better. That's what I think you can do. That's what I make it my life's work to help people do. Thank you.
I'll ask Davia one question, okay? What would you tell the sexual harassers out there?
Get ready, because it's all going to come back to roost. You know, this Me Too story. Look, can I just tell you something? This is not news to any woman who's been in business or anywhere else pretty much ever in her life. It's not news to us. It's not news to the harassers. You know who it is news to? It's news to the good guys. It's news to the guys who would never in a million years think of doing something like that. It's news to my husband who would never in a million years think about doing something like that. And these guys can't even imagine something. They can't project it on themselves. For harassers, what we're seeing now is this stuff, and believe me, I'm seeing it in my private practice a lot with corporations and with other organizations. These things are coming out of the woodwork. Now that the lid is taken off, Charlie, and you know, Pandora's box is opening up, and the list of grievances is huge, and we, you know, what I think the lesson is for us is not to get fatigued from it. Don't ever, my dad once told me, you know, if something bad happens to you, you can adapt to it if you must. Just don't ever think it's normal. And don't.
You know, this is a, you know, we're in disruption at Disrupt DC. In my view, this is a major disruption. I actually see very positive things coming out of this, not only for women, but also male-female relationships. So I always look for the positive. So thanks for that answer.
So we have one last question for Davia, and that is that in this era of hyperpartisanship, you know, we see the filter bubbles on social media. We see the attacks from both extremes in the political parties. What advice do you have for people to get ahead of that? I mean, you've shared some wonderful general advice for people to mentally prepare ahead of time, but what have you seen coming out in terms of best practices in our current political environment?
So, you know, I'm going to quote a friend of mine who's a futurist, and she says that every person she talks to, she asks them to get 3 subscriptions to blogs or publications or whatever it might be of places that think exactly opposite from them, so that they start to, on a daily basis, start to read things that are different from what they feel, to be able to challenge themselves. I mean, look, we know that diverse voices on boards, diverse voices in committees, on whatever else help. So we do actually have to do that now. We have to do it in the worst of times as well as the best of times. And so I think, I mean, first of all, you'll know how to argue against them better if that's what you want and need to do. But secondly, it has to be both sides have to listen more closely to one another. That's really all I got. It comes from negotiation. This doesn't come from crisis management.